as Shonali said, I'm from EY, and I will be talking about the D&I policies at EY. To begin with, and I want to go quickly over this because I know that this is a conference on diversity and inclusion. So yes, we take our D&I pretty seriously. Most of our policies have been focused around the lens of gender parity. So while diversity is what we call the mix, and inclusion is how we leverage that mix, the policies that we are focused on is around the lens of gender parity and inclusion. And if we could move to the next slide. So yeah, I just talked about this. We'll go ahead. Yeah, what do we do in terms of accelerating gender parity? One of the examples that I can give is that this year, we've looked at revisiting all our job descriptions. So research tells us that a job description that is highly masculine coded does put off the female candidate. So we look at all our job descriptions, we review our job descriptions to see if they are neutral or feminine coded. Another example on the aspect of parity is that if a woman employee leaves the organization, there is a woman employee hired in her place. And that's how we maintain the gender ratio at EY. I'll move to the next slide. Yeah. Obviously, when we talk about initiatives in terms of gender parity, I can't not talk about maternity, right? So while maternity policy currently is 26 weeks, at EY, maternity policy 26 weeks was initiated long before the government one. Another thing was the adoption leave, which is 26 weeks, much more than the government mandated 12 weeks. Or for instance, some of the other things that I can talk about is that if a woman employee, like I said, leaves the firm, another person is hired in their place. Or if a woman employee takes a break for maternity or childcare reasons and chooses to return to the firm within 5 years, then that person can be taken back without any formal interview. So, and aside from all of this, we have a pretty robust maternity coaching program. And when I say robust, the reason being that we look at the employee pre-maternity, so how we can help them to go into that transition, during maternity, being assigned a buddy, post-maternity, coming back, getting integrated into the workforce, and also looking at their managers and how we can encourage and help that person to be a good manager to the employee who's returning. The next slide, if we can move to the next slide. No conversation on diversity or on maternity cannot talk about flexibility, and I'm sure that's something that all of us, would want to see. So flexibility is a culture at EY. Whatever we do, employees are encouraged to work on flexibility. And the surprising fact here is that some months ago, when we rolled out a flexibility survey, we had more male respondents than women. And 80% of our employees were happy with the flexibility benefits. So whether it is, let's say, a work from home or working from a remote location or matching hours that suit you, employees are encouraged. And of course, teams see how it works best for themselves depending on their client requirements, of course. And finally, gender, when I said that we look at policies from a gender parity lens, for us at EY, gender is not just the binary. So gender is all-encompassing, it's the broad spectrum, and our policies are inclusive of people who identify as part of the LGBT+ community as well. And so some of the examples that I can give in terms of policies would be spousal benefits being extended, for instance, in terms of insurance or relocation, being extended to domestic partners. And so this covers same-sex partners as well. Or our gender affirmation surgery, which is covered under insurance. Or for instance, and the last example that I will give is our commissioning leave, which is alike for both men and women. Yeah, so I think I've done pretty well with the time, and these are just some of the examples that I wanted to talk about in terms of EY's commitment to inclusion and to policies that look inclusive and on a gender parity lens. Thank you.
You talked about a position replaced by women if it was earlier occupied by a woman candidate or a woman employee.
Yes.
Yeah. So in such cases, I'm sure we also promote parity or equal opportunity.
Yeah.
So what is your candidate management system or candidates expectation management system? People who apply, I mean male candidates who apply or other community which applies for this position, how do you manage responses to them?
So I think at the outset, I'd say that we are a wide enough firm to have opportunities across, right? And this does help us to maintain the ratios. So we are looking at it, from a certain point of view. And yes, if we have people who come in, we do look at the best candidate. I won't deny that. I'm not saying we made a reservation. And we can look at if there is a male candidate who's equally qualified, we can look at them for other positions in the firm as well. It's not just one position.
Helps, thanks.
Yeah.
Sure. Excellent. Any other questions? Yeah. One here. Oh, there's one there and then we'll come back.
You were talking about the, if a woman employee leaves after a maternity break and she wants to apply again.
Yes.
So you mentioned something about the without formal interview. So can you just elaborate on that? I think I missed or...
Sure.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
when I say without a formal interview, I mean that the person doesn't have to go through a formal interview process, which can sometimes be some rounds, right? If we know the person has gone on a break for maternity and childcare reasons and chooses to come back into a similar role, then yes, there will be some discussions. And if everything matches, the person will come on without having to go through those multiple rounds or the formal interview process. That's what I meant here.
One question here.
Yeah.
Hi. So my follow-up question is the same point that you said.
Sure.
You did mention about even if a person has a gap of 5 years,
Yes.
the person comes back without being questioned and being hired. So how do you go about selling this to the business? Because in a current dynamic technology world, things are changing rapidly in 2 years. And when the skill is not given to the resource, no matter the resource comes, how are we ensuring that we are not getting the person to fail in that same role we are getting into 5 years? And how do you go about getting the business, accepting this? Because that's more important for the business.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for that question. And I think it ties back to both of what I said previously. We have a robust maternity coaching program. So when this particular point that I brought up of women having left EY previously, right, for maternity and childcare benefits, when they come back, we are looking at them probably for a similar kind of role that they went on, and we'll ensure through our coaching programs that they are brought up to speed with what they may have missed out on, B, I think, and this is something we mentioned earlier in one of our earlier presentations, the strong tone at the top. The business is totally bought in. The leadership is bought in. We are such a growing firm that, yes, there may be other people who have since occupied that role, but we are growing so large that there is opportunity. The business is bought in, and we will ensure that the woman is brought up to speed in terms of what she's missed out on. Yeah. Thank you.